You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur.
Come on, y'all!
Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, and this is an episode of The Next Level in which I have a guest co-host, and together we talk about the most recent interview of the week in a way that can kind of bring out some advice and tactics and strategies for you to use to bring your own business to the next level. And before I introduce today's guest co-host, I want to mention last week's interview, which was with Josh Spiegel of Birch Event Design out of New York City, and had the photographer Phil Van Nostrand as the guest co-host on The Next Level. And those were both some really cool conversations. So if you missed them, I suggest you check them out. And now today's guest co-host is none other than Laurie Arons. Hey, Laurie, welcome back again to The Wedding Biz.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I every time you come on, I love it. It's been multiple times. I'm going to have in the show notes when we had the original interview of you, plus another follow-up so people can listen. So for those who may not have enough information about you, Laurie Arons is with Laurie Arons Special Events, and she's been featured in numerous magazine publications and was listed in Vogue, Harpers Bazaar, and Martha Stewart Weddings as one of the top planners worldwide. Her clients include noteworthy trendsetters and prominent business moguls, and she runs a wedding planner masterclass that is very well known and popular. And the guest that we're going to talk about today together is the photographer Erich McVey, who is a wedding, portrait, and editorial film photographer, named by Harpers Bazaar, Brides, and Martha Stewart Weddings as one of the best wedding photographers in the world, and twice selected as Film Photographer of the Year. Eric's work has been featured in top wedding publications. So, Laurie, this was really fun talking to Erich. He's just such a cool guy, and he's got such a great story, doesn't he?
He really does. He's seriously one of the sweetest people I've met in the wedding industry. He's just so humble and kind.
Yeah, and he has such a funny story. I mean, right? For those of you who listened to the full interview, and if you haven't, you should. He was talking about how his mother, totally kind of intervened and booked Erich to shoot an ad campaign with absolutely no experience. He didn't even own a camera. So his mother did that when he was really young, and he got the job. And then he met his wife on the job. I mean, it's insane. It's such a funny story.
It is. Talk about life-changing moment.
Oh, yeah. And one of we got into some real cool topics, and one of them was, which I can really resonate with here myself, is Erich was saying how it's so important to keep your passion for the art and not have it get lost in the business side of it. And Laurie, that's something, I would bang my head against the wall with the business side of it and sometimes struggle to keep what he's talking about, to keep that passion for my art. Have you, what is it like for you? You have such a successful business. Does that get in the way ever, or did it in the beginning for you?
For me, it really didn't. I came from a marketing and business background, so it was kind of a natural segue, but I had a creative kind of part in my soul and a desire to entertain. So it was kind of a balance for me, but I think Erich found his soulmate in his wife, Amy, who's this wonderful business manager. And I think she balances his strengths and weaknesses out so that they're like the dynamic duo. So he lucked out for sure.
Oh, God, yeah. And also, we talked about the difference between shooting with digital versus shooting with film, and he uses film. And it was interesting. He was saying that in the beginning, he did shoot digitally, but he felt like he was hitting a wall, artistically speaking, and that shooting with film gave him the look that he really envisioned, and that it's more intentional, shooting when you use film, and that he felt he became a better photographer when he started shooting film, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think when you shoot film, there is a lot of cost associated, with each roll of film and developing. So for obvious reasons, you've got to really be more thoughtful. There's also the fact that you've got to load the film or have somebody help you. So not just shooting away like you can so easily with digital it's just more focused. And I think in the end, it forces the photographer to really kind of value each image and where they're choosing to shoot. And obviously there's a lot of extras and outtakes, but it's much more thoughtful.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm a real layman when it comes to this with photography, and yet I remember when I first looked at his galleries. Obviously, it's beautiful, like really stunning work, but I could tell that it was film, and it just does seem more artful. I mean, I'm sure there's photographers out there who can use digital in an artful way. Though I love when I see film. I just love the look.
Oh, me too, Andy. As you know, I started my company way back in 1994, and there wasn't digital photography back then. And, I was introduced to a few photographers that I liked, and, they were shooting film, of course. And I never left film. When digital came out, I just was not sold. And I sought after film photographers through my entire career. So I've really see the difference, and it is so much more, can be so much more creamy and just luscious and not so vivid and kind of digitalized or something. Like I find it, the creaminess and the way the photographer lets in the light. And Erich, one of the things about his style and the way that he shoots is he is a little bit moodier than some of the other photographers that I work with. And some of my clients, when I'm talking to them about photography and the different options, and, some of them really prefer kind of a more moody, a little more saturated film style photography, which Erich offers beautifully. So it's been a pleasure recommending him to people, and everyone adores him because he's so passionate. He's incredibly hardworking and just dedicated to like he said in the interview, to over delivering. He never wants the client in the end or the planner, who's also his client, to ever feel like they did not get the shots that they feel the wedding sort of carried and should be held in photo memory forever.
Yeah. And earlier you were mentioning light, and, I asked him about light, and he was saying that he feels that how you utilize light is not only really fun, but it's also how we can distinguish one photographer from another, and so that I thought that was fascinating too. I want to be sure you know the wonderful news of our latest show, Stop and Smell the Roses, with acclaimed lifestyle and event design expert Preston Bailey. Not only will he share the secrets, tools, and technologies behind his extraordinary ability to create a theatrical environment out of any space, you will also discover more about the man behind the magic. Preston will reveal how his focus on personal growth has been the root of his professional success, and you'll have the opportunity for him to answer your questions along the way. Plus, Preston will be inviting onto the show many of the star celebrities he has worked with in the past, so you don't want to miss a single episode. We also have another great show on the Wedding Biz Network, The Business of Being Creative, with host Sean Lowe. Since debuting last May, his show has really taken off, and he's continuing to bring you the creative business advice he's shared with accomplished industry notables. Be sure to take advantage of Sean's talkback opportunity by recording questions and comments from right there in each episode's show notes. So, if you are a creative who is turning your craft into a business or want to take it to another level, head to theweddingbiznetwork.com and take a listen to Stop and Smell the Roses with Preston Bailey and The Business of Being Creative with Sean Lowe. That's theweddingbiznetwork.com. And then we talked about how he says he still gets butterflies, like for weddings, because of the responsibility of having to deliver something really wonderful, and that it's like it's exciting and it's terrifying and it's motivating to keep him on his toes, and I was saying, like for me with music, I feel the same. It's like it helps me to be hyper vigilant, which he could resonate with. Do you, Laurie, feel like that? I mean, at this point in your career as a planner, designer, like, do you sometimes or always get a little bit of the butterflies before?
I do. The butterflies come to me when we're approaching the ceremony because that is the time that the production is at its heightened moment. You're basically starting a theater production that's live, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of activity going on between the guests and the band setting up, and just so many things happening at that moment. That so yeah, I do get butterflies, and I found that part of his interview so charming, and I can tell that when he comes to the weddings that he feels that way, and to me that means he loves what he does so much. He cares deeply, which I think is a key for anyone really to thrive in this industry. If you don't love it and you're just doing it to make money or just to do a job and not because your heart is in it, then I think you need to find another career. And he definitely kind of personifies all of those things, which I think is why I continue to recommend him and my clients love him.
Yeah. It's funny when you mentioned you still like get butterflies, especially before a ceremony. There was this massive, massive, massive showcase I can't even describe with one of my bands that I did down in Miami. This is years and years and years ago. I mean, it was a ton of people with a lot of big hitters there. And I felt way more, talk about butter. It was like more than butterflies. I was so nauseous. I thought I had gotten the flu, and this is before the performance. I had to lay down, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe I'm getting sick right before this massive performance. And then the time came when we had to start. I was still in the band at that time, and I got up on stage. We started to perform. It went away immediately, and I realized, oh, I was just really super nervous.
Yeah, I know. It can be, it's so intense, It's live and there's a lot on the line. And for the photographer, like, imagine if they miss something. So, because once the wedding's over, you don't ever get those people back together. It's done. Just like for you, like, if you mess up or you're not as good, you had so much pressure, and every wedding is important. So you want to make the dance floor happy and packed all night. And I always want all the guests and everything to go smoothly, and my client just to be having fun and relaxing and not worrying about anything, because we're there to make it all happen. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but I wouldn't do anything else. I'm so lucky to do what I love. So
yeah. Well, and if we didn't feel, I can't remember if this came up in the conversation, but if we didn't feel those butterflies or a little bit of nervous, anxiety or then we don't care enough. I've heard a lot of people say that too, that it's because we care so much that we feel that. So, anyone out there listening, if you think you shouldn't be feel it, no. It is a good thing. It's a good sign. So one more topic I wanted to cover, Laurie, before we go is, obviously you've worked with Erich a lot. Generally speaking, what do you look for? And you've said some of it in this conversation, but overall, what do you look for when choosing a photographer for a client?
Well, it's a lot of things on my list to sort of check off. First of all, I generally won't add a photographer onto my list until I've worked with them. And so that's a tricky thing. So sometimes the photographer can recommend me to a bride, or sometimes brides will know a photographer and bring them onto the job, and then I'll have that opportunity. But, I'm always looking for a real depth of experience. Of course, I'm looking for a film photographer. I am more and more comfortable with having a combination of film and digital. If they all really like to shoot digital, sometimes in very low light, and I'm a fan of low light at dinner parties. I love candlelit, and I bring in beautiful lighting, but I don't like it all bright and crazy. I like it to be romantic and moodier at night, especially during dancing. So yeah, experience, personality, of course. I've got to know that they're going to be wonderful to be around, and their experience will tell me, and I'll do some research, and that they're cool under pressure, and that, they have a history of always delivering or over delivering and not causing problems. Because being a team player is such an important thing to a wedding planner producing really big productions, because there's so many parts of the team and they're all super important. Just having everyone care about the same goal and be respectful of the planner and what they've put into it, and all of the hours talking to the client, and what's important with timing, and the fact that the band has to end at this hour because of noise restrictions. So we can't go off and take the couple out for photos for an hour. Like, it just doesn't work. So we all have to work as a team and communicate and over communicate, and then it's all happy.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you for helping me with this today, Laurie. And let me just tell everyone to check out your website, which is lauriearons.com. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got your Instagram handle being at Laurie Arons, and for Facebook, Laurie Arons Special Events. Is that right?
That's correct. That's perfect.
And then for Erich, his website is erichmcvey.com. And now that's spelled ERICHMCVEY, erichmcvey.com. His Instagram handle in particular is at Erich McVey. And if you missed any of this with Laurie or Erich, the show notes have all this information on where to find them at theweddingbiz.com. And we want to thank our sponsor for today, which is Kushner Entertainment. And thank you for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.